What's good guys, Nathan here and welcome back to another Shonen Cast video. Today, I'm going to be ranking my top 10 characters in Attack on Titan. Characters can make or break a series, as they are the thing with which the audience views and becomes invested in the story. But what makes a good character? Motivation, personality, development, impact, and so much more. The best of the best characters excel in most of these things, and considering one of my favorite series, Attack on Titan, ended just last week, I thought I would give my take on who I think are the best characters in the series. This video will contain major spoilers for all of Attack on Titan, so obviously click off if you do not want to be spoiled. Anyway, without any further ado, coming in at number 10 we have the lovable Titan scientist herself, Hanji Zoe. From the moment Hanji was introduced, I knew there was something special about her. She's just a bit off, but in the best sense, with her very strange personality and approach to Titan study and experimentation. It's cool to see a different type of wise wizard mentor type character, as she is the one who helps to develop both Eren's Titan abilities and Parady's knowledge of the mystery behind them. She's a character who has such a strong arc throughout the series, as she struggles coming to terms with the weight of leadership as she takes on the role of Scout Commander after Erwin's death, as well as the weight of responsibility after needing to do some extremely heinous things in order to achieve her goals, demonstrating the cycle of violence that exists throughout the series. And we can't talk about Hanji without mentioning her death at the hands of the Colossals in her final stand to buy time for the Alliance. Although I do feel the execution could have been better, especially in regards to the reason she had to fight, mainly the flock stuff, I do think it was a fitting end to one of the series' best, pushing ever forward and enjoying life to the fullest. At number 9, we have Mr. Horseface himself, Jean Kirstein. Someone who I feel like is wildly underrated and has one of the most subtle yet perfect arcs throughout the series, as we watch him go from a stuck-up jerk looking to get the easy life in the military police to a full-fledged scout fighting to the end for the sake of humanity. This arc has been done in so many different mediums, but it especially works here because fighting the Titans is not some glorious path, but rather one of hardship and self-sacrifice. I especially appreciate Jean's relationship with Eren throughout the series, as we watch Eren constantly push Jean to be better and braver than he is, only for Jean to be the one to fight against him at the end for the sake of the ideals Eren touted to him all the way back when they were recruits. Also, we can't mention Jean's arc without talking about Marco, whose death had such a huge impact on Jean and forces him to want to be the leader that Marco knew he could be, with such a great payoff in the Return to Shiganshina arc when he pulls Armin out of despair. Truly one of the most underappreciated and well-developed characters in the series. At number 8, we have the worst girl in the world, Historia Rice. Going from a simple farm girl to the Queen of Paradis, Historia's story, although only really taking up about 1.5 arcs, is one of the most compelling within the series, as she becomes one of the most important characters in the fight against the Titans due to the reveal of her having royal blood. Her arc in dealing with self-hatred, abuse, and rejection is done so well and develops so many of the strong themes in the series surrounding the need for human connection and the cycle of hatred. Her last stand against her manipulative father, choosing Eren and the scouts over the longing for familial love she never had, is easily one of the best moments in the Royal Government arc, as well as a moment of true hope within the series, showing it is possible to choose to do better than that which was done to you. I am personally not a huge fan of how her character was extremely wasted post Season 3, however, that doesn't take away from her incredible journey within the series. At number 7, we've got the one and only FaZe Gabi Braun. Now, I know many are not huge fans of Gabi, but for me personally, her arc is one of the best parts of Season 4. Seeing the warrior program in Marley and how the Eldian youth are indoctrinated into hating their own race, as well as radicalized to the point that they are forced into being child soldiers by both the Marleyans and their Eldian families, it's a horrifyingly true testament to how society can manipulate children into self-loathing, as we see Gabi wants to destroy Paradis so that only the quote-unquote good Eldians will be left. And probably my favorite part of her character is how she is paralleled to Eren when she vows to kill him and all the Island Devils after he and the scouts attack Liberio, harkening back to his vow to kill all the Titans at the beginning of Season 1. It's a chilling execution of how hatred and violence only breeds more and shows how far Eren has gone. Fortunately, Isayama uses Gabi in a similar way to Historia to show how people can overcome these feelings through seeing and accepting the humanity of other people and choosing to not do the same as her enemy, The scene of Gabi admitting to Reiner that he was right, that the Island Devils are just people as well, is so powerful and again parallels Eren's conversation with Reiner in Season 4, except with Gabi choosing to not fight. Gabi assisting in the final battle feels fitting in her fighting alongside the Island Devils to destroy Eren for the sake of something better than war and revenge. And finally, her and Falco being those to inherit and grow the New World leaves her arc on a very hopeful note, which I thoroughly loved. At number 6 is Armin Arlert, the blonde dreamer. Armin for me is one of the most unexpectedly interesting characters in the series, as he goes on an extremely fascinating arc from the once very hopeful, optimistic, and naive boy to a very jaded, frustrated, and hardened character. Throughout the series, we see how the harsh world forces him to realize that he may have to give up part of his humanity in order to survive and bring his ideals to pass. After being given the Colossal Titan over Erwin and then discovering the truth of the outside world, his arc in dealing with the immense weight and responsibility of carrying forward Erwin's legacy, life, and role is a really great development. It continues the darker theme of his character in forcing him to eventually use the Colossal Titan on Liberio and deal with his absolute self-hatred for that action. This, along with the other arc which focuses on him overcoming his cowardice and hopelessness towards his situation, leads to one of the most heartbreaking character breakdowns I've ever seen, yet one that is so fundamental and deserved. Him eventually taking responsibility for his part in the rumbling and saying he will see Eren in hell is a very sobering yet fitting ending to his arc. The bright-eyed boy who dreamed of freedom becoming a false hero whose sins can never truly be forgiven by himself. A tragic yet very well realized character arc that fits the show's grim themes about human nature so well. At number 5 we have Rhaina Braun, the inheritor of the Armored Titan. Rhaina is one of the most tragic characters in a show that is full of them. She starts off as the typical cool older brother type character, becoming fast friends with Eren and acting like a role model for him. However, Season 2 absolutely flips the story on its head, with the Warriors reveal being one of, if not the most iconic moments in the series, revealing Rhaina as the Armored Titan shifter. We then see Rhaina's split personality disorder come out as he struggles to maintain his sanity and pursue his goals after bonding with the Scouts, and when he returns to Marley in Season 4, he is a shell of a man, full of regret and self-hatred, almost attempting the unthinkable. We see his backstory and how he wanted to be a hero and bring his Eldian mother and Marleyan father together, working so hard to try to become a warrior despite not being good enough. However, instead, he becomes a warrior out of chance, with Marcel trying to save Porco from his fate, and so Rhaina goes to Paradis as a mess of a boy and returns a lonely and broken husk. His conversation and fight with Eren in Liberio is his lowest moment in the series, as he lies defeated and hopeless, wanting to be done with his sorry life. However, when Gabi and Falco cry out to him, it brings him back to the reason he has to fight. These kids, his friends, his family. We see him again go to Paradis to attempt to defeat Eren, but again he cannot, and is losing hope after the rumbling. But fortunately, after reconciling with the remaining Scouts, and with another push of motivation from Gabi and Falco, he joins the Alliance and plays a major role in the final battle, ending a hero, at least in the eyes of his fellow Eldians. We then get a nice conclusion to his arc, with him reconciling with his mom, which personally, I definitely think should have been more well fleshed out in order to have more of an impact, but it did its job in concluding his arc on a hopeful note. At number 4, we have the hairy beast himself, Zeke Yeager. One of the later additions to the show, Zeke left his mark on the series in a huge way with the reveal at the end of Season 3 of him being Eren's brother. As we learn more about him and his backstory, we see the full picture of a man who has grown up with a tortured life split between the ideologies of his emotionally abusive parents and loving grandparents. Thankfully, he finds connection with the former Beast Titan shifter, who he eventually comes to see as his father. Through him, he finds love, kindness, and most notably, a way to escape his life by giving up his parents and working to become the inheritor of the Beast. Zeke's flashback gives such a terrifying look at the indoctrination of children, not only through society, but through their elders, even those who should have their best interests in mind. Over time, after Zeke inherits the Beast's memories, he comes up with the euthanization plan. One that, using the power of the Founder, would cause no more Eldians to be able to reproduce and ending the curse of the Titans. A plan with no casualties other than future generations, one he believes will stop the suffering of children like him. This arc of his is so compelling, and in many ways, out of any character, he truly seems to have a point, and a way in which to bring about his ideals without bloodshed. Of course, in the end, after making a plan and attempting to reach out and find brotherly connection with Eren, he is betrayed and used to start the Rumbling, which will bring about the horrible deaths of thousands of people, and thus regresses to a shell of his former self, full of despair. Fortunately, hope is not lost for Zeke, as Armin and him discuss the point of life and things start to come back into focus. He comes to understand the importance of connection and that even in this cruel world, there are moments of happiness. In the end, he gives himself up for death, accepting the beauty of life, and even having a small moment of reconciliation with his father. Despite the ending being a bit rushed, I loved the way in which his arc concluded, minus a few small nitpicks here and there, and found him to be one of the most tragic yet hopeful character stories I have seen in a long time. At number 3, probably lower than many of you would have had him, I've got the freedom fighter himself, Eren Yeager. Now, I love Eren and I think he is an incredible character. However, there are a few things in regards to the ending that I'm not a huge fan of, and they do affect his character in some ways, and so they bring him down from the number 1 spot for me. I'm not someone who thinks his character was assassinated, like some people are saying, but I did have some issues, and the resolution of his character was not as good as I wish it could have been. Nevertheless, regardless of the quality of his writing, I will not deny the fact that he is the most dynamic and interesting character in the show, and perhaps of any shonen protagonist. A character who goes through so much change throughout the series, and a character who encapsulates many of the central themes of the show extremely well, from freedom to the cycle of hatred to human connection. There are so many videos you can find analyzing Eren from many different perspectives, so I will not go into full detail of every moment throughout the series, but rather give my general thoughts. We watch as Eren, mad for revenge and the pursuit of freedom, and given a power like no other, navigates the cruel world of Attack on Titan after the death of his mother at the hands of the armored and colossal Titan, leaving him reeling. Season 1 to 3 Eren is a pretty decent character as he becomes a scout and slowly begins to unravel the mystery of the Titans along with his own powers, slowly forging his own identity and sense of power. But then there is a shift. The memories he sees at the medal ceremony and in the basement, along with the insane reveal about Zeke, Reiner, and Bertolt, shifts his perspective, and the discovery of the true enemies across the sea is the last straw. Go to the final season, where after a 4-year time skip, Eren infiltrates Liberio, forcing a scout attack on Marley and grabbing Zeke in pursuit of starting the Rumbling. Up until the end, Season 4 Eren's true plan and motivation is mostly kept in the dark, but we see it slowly come together as he talks about continuing to fight and move forward, acknowledging the humanity of those across the sea, but still determined to destroy them. We are shown this by the fact that Paradis attempted to find means towards peace in the past, but no option worked, and in the end, Eren is left to resort to his most natural means: cold violence for the sake of his and his friends' freedom. No different than when he was 9 years old, a character driven to commit heinous acts out of a desire to destroy those who have oppressed him, becoming the oppressor himself. This all comes together in the Rumbling, where Eren betrays Zeke and joins Ymir, after one of the greatest plot twists in anime history, where Eren manipulates his father Grisha through the Attack Titan's memories to kill the Rice family and give him the Founding Titan. I cannot express how incredible this scene is, as it shows how far Eren is willing to go for the sake of the twisted view of freedom he desires. His development from tragic hero to heinous yet somewhat sympathetic villain, as can be seen during his breakdown with Ramsey, is done so well and truly something special on behalf of Isayama. And up to the freedom panel, I think his character is flawless. However, I do have some issues with the conclusion to his character, and while they mostly surround the various story elements outside of him, they still have some effect on him, and so take him out of a higher spot. First off, I don't like the way killing his mom was not expanded more, and just felt like a final twist that was not given enough time to breathe and sink in, and thus felt kind of cheap and rushed. I also felt that the Founding Titan powers were not fully explained well enough, thus made the idea of the paths and the fixed past, present, and future not well realized. Also, Personally, though I am fine with the Eren and Mikasa romance, I felt the way it was shoehorned into the last chapter felt very jarring and, again, wish it was expanded upon. Same with the Ymir and Mikasa, 80% rumbling, and his plan to make his friends heroes stuff, all being rushed and not explained enough. In concept, most of these ideas are perfectly fine and I really like them, but due to the fact that they are all brought about in one episode, with some having very little foreshadowing earlier in the story, they leave a lot left to be desired, at least for me. Again, I understand and have no problem with the themes and ideas Isayama is trying to convey. However, good ideas and themes mean nothing and can only go so far if the execution of them in the story is not done well. Those are my personal grievances and I'm not going to go into it anymore. Regardless of the execution, I love the reveal of how Eren's motivation becomes mixed between his want to save his friends and his subconscious human need to get the freedom he selfishly feels he deserves, leaving him conflicted but ultimately unable to not give in to his inner desires, thus leaving the future to only be able to turn out the way it did. I truly hope that his character arc will change the nature of shonen storytelling, leading to more complex protagonists and stories on the same level in the future. At number 2 is the human Beyblade himself, Captain Levi Ackerman. Look, there's not much I need to say here. Levi is essentially the perfect character to have in a shonen series, a dream come true for any mangaka with dreams of success. His fights are sick, his lines are incredible, and his subtle yet consistently beautiful characterization is astonishingly great. Being first introduced as humanity's strongest and one of the higher-ups of the Scout Regiment, we slowly discover more and more about him as the series goes on. We see him act as a mentor for Eren and teach him about the importance of having a strong will and being able to make decisive choices you can stand by in the heat of battle, which is then later developed as he has to stand by his choices after his whole squad is killed by the female Titan. This moment brings out his more emotional side for a bit, but also shows the man he has needed to become in order to get here. If you haven't watched Attack on Titan No Regrets, you are missing out, as it really develops the groundwork for Levi's character and his main philosophy of having no regrets, and adds more to his relationship with Erwin. He is a man who has lived a life of pain, as we see in his backstory with Kenny in Season 3, yet still chooses to push forward for the hope of a better world. He has to move on even after realizing all the Titans he killed were once people, placing so many lives on his back and conscience. This is even more exemplified in his biggest decision in the entire series, choosing to bring back Armin over Erwin, as he believes it is the better choice for building to that dreamlike future. Also, him telling Erwin to give up on his dreams and die is such a great scene that holds over his head the rest of the series, leading him on a path of dutiful vengeance against the Beast Titan due to Erwin's last command to him. In Season 4, he literally kills all his comrades after they become Titans for his promise to Erwin, and finally at the end, after finally fulfilling his mission, he can rest and be at peace. Seeing Levi make the scout salute along with shedding tears is one of the greatest scenes in the final episode, showing a man who has finally brought about a tiny bit of hope to the world as well as his commander's dream, a fitting end to humanity's strongest. And finally, coming in at number 1, you might have expected this from the beginning or come to the conclusion by now in the video, we have the devil himself, Commander Erwin Smith. Sometimes, when a character doesn't have a lot of screen time, it can be hard to truly connect with them, or at least not as much as the more central characters. But Erwin Smith is the exception to the rule. Every scene he is in, his presence is felt. Every decision he makes has ripples throughout the series. If there was ever a character who truly felt like they were in command with an iron will that cannot be touched, it's Erwin. I mean, at the end of Season 2, his command to charge forward as his arm is stuck in the jaws of a Titan is just pure hype and adrenaline. We watch as countless times he pushes forward and outwits his opponents, giving advice to Eren to search for the true enemy. It's clear from the beginning he longs to bring humanity freedom outside the walls. Of course, slowly we come to see him for what he truly is, and as we get his backstory later on, we see Erwin Smith finally revealed. A man who wants himself to be the one to see beyond the walls, who dreams of the beyond as his father did. A man who would selfishly act as a selfless leader for his own objective, lying the entire time. Humanity's freedom? He could care less. He'll cause a Titan to transform in a town just to get more understanding. Smile after his comrades die and he's lost his arm, just to gaining information. He'll let Titans go all the way to attack a town just to achieve a political maneuver that benefits him. A cunning, deceitful man who lives his life for his sole purpose, not allowing either his comrades nor enemies to stop him. That is, until the end of Season 3, Part 2. Stuck in a corner, with rocks coming down around him, comrades screaming in terror, he sees the corpses of his fallen soldiers around him. This fight is hopeless. He could circle back, come up with a new plan. But no, it's too late. As Levi says, it's time to give up on his dreams and die, and lead those crying children straight to hell. And so he does exactly that. He lets go and gives a speech so rousing it sounds like it could wake the dead. He gets on his horse and he charges straight on at the beast, and so commences the last stand of Erwin Smith. The one selfless act of his entire life, the one act truly done for the sake of humanity, with a look of pure terror, adrenaline, and determination on his face as he goes to his death in the greatest charge in cinematic history, dying a true hero and one at peace with his decision. To pack so much depth into one character and execute his arc so perfectly is a triumph in writing on the part of Isayama. Every scene builds on the next, subverting expectations all along the way and ending with a moment that will never be forgotten. Every speech is perfect, every look is chilling. Tell me you would not ride to your death behind Erwin Smith, and I would call you a liar. Thank you, Isayama. Thank you, Wit. Thank you, Mappa. And thank you, Attack on Titan. This show will forever be a part of me, and despite some of my problems with the ending, I don't think there will ever be a show that looks at the human condition and cycle of violence quite so well. I'm happy to call this show a flawed masterpiece that will stand the test of time and surely inspire even more great stories to be created. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you would consider dropping a like and subscribing. Comment down below your top 10 characters and let me know your thoughts on Attack on Titan as a whole now that it is complete. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.